Hi everybody, my name is Alan. On behalf of the crew, I'd like to welcome you to another edition of Bridging Heaven and Earth. First of all, I'd like to thank you all. On the last show we talked a lot about, or at the opening of the show I talked about that we had just gotten the IRS approval to be a non-profit corporation, a non-profit organization, the Bridging Heaven and Earth Foundation. We've gotten really a lot of positive response from that, and all your encouragement is really important to us here. And also over this last few-week period, we've been contacting people about being on the advisory board of the Bridging Heaven and Earth Foundation, and the response has just been unbelievable. We've already gotten agreements to be on the advisory board from Eric Berglund, Lillian Carson, Patricia Cota-Robles, Bill Cozzolino, Arthur Duay, Heather Ann Harder, Ronna Herman, Barbara Marks Hubbard, Stephen Royal Jackson, Leonard Jacobson, Tae-Young Kim, Carolyn Kleefeld, Andy Lakey, Lesia, Sheoli Makara, Alan Mesher, Omishar Wastancia, and Peter Quay Wright. And that's basically, we have a few others who we requested to be on who we haven't been able to contact. They've been out of the country. So the response has just been unbelievable. And anybody who's followed the Bridging Heaven and Earth show over the last 5-year period has known that, you know, basically all these people have appeared on the show and just been extraordinary friends and inspirations for us here, and are just inspirations all over the world and travel all over the world, bringing their dedication and love to everyone who's open to it. And we're just honored that they have chosen to associate themselves with the Bridging Heaven and Earth Foundation. So we're really excited about that, and we're getting ready to apply for grants so we can expand that love, so we can be in more cities around the United States, so we can be, you know, certain that all the shows of, this is the 97th show, are available on the internet, so anybody with an internet access can watch a show anytime, any of the shows. So I mean, that's, you know, some of the things we're working on: a retreat center, a media and communication center. So all your encouragement and all your kind words are really helpful to us. So, and we'll talk more about it and the things we're doing as we progress. And tonight we're again just so honored and fortunate to have the foremost leader, the founder in his field, to come to Santa Barbara to be with us on a live show tonight. Harold Dull is with us. He's the teacher, a healer. He's the founder, developer of Watsu, an incredible healing modality that takes place in the water. He's the author of Watsu, Freeing the Body in Water. He too travels all over the world. I mean, I found out today he speaks like 8 or 9 languages and just travels all over the world teaching this incredible healing technique everywhere, in Japan and England and Italy. And he came down just to be on the show, and we have video of his, and we're just honored to have Harold with us tonight. So just before we get started with Harold and the videos, please join me in a short meditation. If you're not familiar with how to meditate, just relax, settle in, and let this show carry you. Harold's got some extraordinary information. He's just an extraordinary being, and he's here to share that love and information with you. So please join me in a short meditation. Thank you. So we're going to start tonight's show with a little video, an introduction to Watsu. This video was done by Harold, and it's really beautiful. Settle in, let the healing and love just carry you for the next hour. It has the potential for you and for us to be a beautiful experience. So whenever we're ready with the video.
Watsu, or water shiatsu, is a pioneering and phenomenally growing form of aquatic bodywork that began in 1980 when Harold Dull started applying the stretches of Zen shiatsu while floating people in the warm pool at Northern California's Harbin Hot Springs. In the years since, with the help of students, other instructors, and professionals from related fields in countless classes, spas, and clinics around the world, Watsu has evolved into what many believe is the most significant advance in bodywork in our times. While virtually every other modality uses touch to connect the practitioner with the client, Watsu allows for a significantly deeper connection through the holding that working in water necessitates. The practitioner cradles the client in his or her arms and creates a physical and emotional environment of total safety and trust. With that trust as a framework, the closeness of the person-to-person contact combines with the deeply relaxing effects of warm water, the freedom it gives the spine, and the therapeutic nature of Watsu's moves and stretches. The result is a bodywork modality of extraordinary depth, which can have both specific therapeutic results and profound healing on many levels of a person's being. Besides finding countless applications in therapy and in spas around the world, Watsu is bringing new connection into the lives of many who are sharing its simpler moves with family and friends. In a typical session, harmonizing the receiver and giver's breathing with each stretch and the gentle rising and falling of the body in water leads into deeper and deeper levels of relaxation. Moments of stillness alternate with moves that free the body in ways impossible on land. The experienced Watsu practitioner chooses from a wide range of positions and proven sequences those that will be the most effective and appropriate. At the same time, he or she listens for and follows whatever tendencies to move arise from within the receiver, welcoming each opportunity to move into a creative free flow. Typically, at the end of a session, no matter how much might have been encountered and let go during the session, the receiver feels a deep and extremely satisfying sense of completion.
Hi, we're on the set with Harold. Welcome.
Okay, thank you. Thank you for having me.
So how did you come to develop Watsu? What was the path that led you into the water?
Well, I was teaching Zen Shiatsu. I'd studied this in Japan and in America. And in Zen Shiatsu, we do a lot of stretching. It focuses more on stretching than actual point work in Zen Shiatsu. And I was teaching groups up at Harbin Hot Springs, and they have a warm pool there.
And that's a resort area up in Northern California.
Yeah, north of Calistoga, 2 hours north of San Francisco.
Right.
And I just started floating people to start stretching them in the warm water and found that they really stretched. The stretches were much more powerful when it's done in warm water because it really helps the person relax and like that.
And you found that there was like an anti-gravity effect. I mean, just something about being in the water allowed movement to happen?
Yes, and it takes the weight off the spine, so the spine is freed and can move different ways like that.
Because, I mean, when we first met, which was, I guess, a couple of months ago now, you took me to a local pool around here, and it was just an extraordinary experience. Why don't you describe the process of the experience and how you cradle the person, you know, in the heart area? I mean, I felt, you know, I'm not 12 years old anymore, or 5, as most of you have probably guessed by now. But I mean, you really feel like a baby. You really feel, you know, as you open into it. Why don't you describe
Well,
that?
when we start with a person, we want the water to be doing everything. We want them to feel that they're totally accepted in the water, and we connect to the breathing of the person to give that a feeling. So we're holding them, and then as we feel them breathing out, their body starts getting heavier, and they start sinking, and then as they breathe in, they get lighter. And so we just connect our breathing to that. So when we feel them getting heavier, we also breathe out, and we sink. And when we feel them getting lighter, we just breathe in, and the water lifts us. So we're not putting any effort or any force, so we can just totally be present with the person. And this is the principle that comes from Zen Shiatsu, is the idea of being present, giving the person support, not trying to do something to them, but being with them, not that. So we can have this wonderful closeness of just being there and not trying to do something to the person. And this allows people to access all kinds of levels. And we don't try to focus at any one level. Whatever they're accessing, whatever they're working through, we're just there with them. And the water is a very primal element, and people can move
Yeah, I
through
mean,
all
we're
kinds
made of like, what, 80, 93% water? I mean, so I mean, we really feel at home in water.
Yeah.
as human beings. So, and you felt that that was like the next step in terms of your understanding of a healing process and a stress reduction process?
Yes, yes. Yeah, and it's, and I started teaching it to my students. I have a school up at Harbin Hot Springs that we've had for 20 years there now. And I started teaching it to my students and found that when they came back on land to do work on land, there's something had changed. They were able to move differently, to be present, to be more present. And we also started teaching drop-in classes for people that weren't professional body workers, and found that not only in receiving but in giving, they were able to really experience something very valuable for them, of holding another in the water, just simply holding and feeling the breathing with another, connecting with another like that. So we've, over the 20 years, we've had drop-in classes at Harbin Hot Springs every weekend that people can just come in and experience that. And it's
they can experience both sides. I mean, you have also where people come in for treatments or sessions where they come in and they're...
Yeah, we've been developing, it's been a long development over 20 years, evolved a program for practitioners, which we find is we need more and more. It's becoming more and more professional, the program. We started, just at the beginning, and now we've moved it a long way. And so we have very professional. But at the same time, we want to make it accessible to people that aren't on a professional path. So we have
and that's one of the things you're working on now is expanding in almost home bathtubs and home pools. And so it doesn't have to be with a trained instructor. It can be with a loved one or...
Well, it's good if they first learn from an instructor, but they don't. Because there are things to. You need to really be careful about how you're holding a person's neck in the water, their head, not their neck, because people relax very much in the water, and so they need to be really well supported.
Feel safe.
Feel safe.
Yeah, if they keep getting dunked, it would be a less than pleasant experience.
No noses going under.
That's so good. Do you notice that when somebody starts letting go and starts relaxing, that their weight changes, their body chemistry, their vibration? I mean, you can feel it.
Definitely, you can feel it. And it's in stages, but some people, it takes longer, but everybody lets go something. And so that's, so we're not trying to make them totally all wet noodles, things like that, because but they just, whatever they let go, and they do, everybody lets go something. And,
did you find, because I had the experience and you did it to me, of just a real love? I mean, because you're cradled in the other person's heart.
For me, this holding and having the arm back here, I've always felt a kind of heart wrap. I call it kind of a heart wrap. I connect into the breathing. When I get really connected to the breathing, something happens.
It's almost like you're one.
Yeah,
the separation breaks down.
Yeah,
and no one's moving the other person. No one's being moved. It's just there is this movement. There is this one.
And this feeling of oneness for me has always been so incredible because it's with everybody. It's floating there in my arms. People that I would never imagine having a feeling of oneness with. But then once they're there. But then when you have this too, you realize it's not your oneness with this person, it's your oneness with everything.
Right.
It's a way of accessing
that experience. Yeah. Well, that on the show and on the flyers we say dedicated to the oneness.
Right.
And that's what the show's about. 97 different spokes into how to experience the oneness, because it doesn't matter what spoke you're using, it just matters if you're experiencing the oneness.
And one of the spokes I find happening in Watsu too is working with the breath, is going to that point at the bottom of the breath. And I always feel very much an emptiness right at that point, and then rising up from that. And I feel that oneness also resides in going to that emptiness and being in that emptiness.
And people have called it meditation in a sense. I mean, it's like, it's in a sense that's a meditation technique, or the experience of meditation or something like that.
Sure.
So you find yourself having this experience. Once you have it in the water, I mean, do people, you would think, carry that experience out on land?
Oh, very much. Yeah. Many people have changed their lives profoundly after this work. And some not so much. It varies. Right. It totally varies. We never know what's going to happen any individual, but it's
And the facility now is going through a transformation where it's going to be
Yes.
more available and more different. Why don't
Yes,
you
well, there's a
describe
new
This is
center.
at Harbin Hot Springs.
Yeah,
This is where you.
they're building a new center, the Watsu Center, for our work there. And it's an incredible center. It's going to be 5 geodesic spheres. It's designed by Eugene Sway, who's just an incredible architect, with 2 pools up on the side of the mountain there. And we should be in it later this summer. We're really
2
looking forward.
pools, meaning the Watsu pools.
Yeah,
where you
2
can do
Watsu
the-
pools and then the 5 spheres around it on the side of the mountain.
Now, how is it generally done? I mean, when you and I did it, was you and I in the pool alone.
Yeah.
And in the videos that I've seen and that we saw a little earlier, there were, numerous
Well,
groups.
those are shots taken from classes.
So the classes have numerous ones.
But often at Harbin, there'll be different people giving sessions in the same pool.
Uh-huh.
It's ideally, if you it would be to have a single session pool that you have just totally to
Like a
yourself.
big hot tub.
But it still works. It works wherever. Because people
No,
they
because
go
you let
into-
go, right?
Yeah, people let go
right.
and they
It
go
doesn't
into-
matter.
Yeah. And it was about 10 years ago. Well, right now there's a book out that's called Aquatic Rehabilitation, which is a standard textbook on working in water. And Watsu is one of the 3 major forms now that's recognized and used around the world in aquatic rehabilitation.
Mm-hmm.
And about 10 years ago, the first experience with working with a clinic using Watsu was Timpani Center in San Jose. And they called me down there to teach, and I wasn't sure what was going to happen because we were using this more as body work, more as like massage, the shiatsu, and like that. And I hadn't really thought how it would be used clinically. And we took it down there and taught them, and they just did wonderful things using it there clinically. And I was
Well, just describe the difference between clinically. What do you mean by
Okay,
that?
well,
Like for
okay.
people who have more.
So let's look at
conditions?
extreme conditions, and also aquatic. I mean, Watsu is really the first form of aquatic bodywork, as distinguished from aquatic therapy. There's always been aquatic therapy, but it's been with special conditions, a particular condition. Whereas, like massage, it can be done for stress reduction. You don't have to have a special condition to get a massage. And the same way with Watsu, it can be something just for personal growth and stress reduction, like that. So, and this wasn't true of aquatic therapy. Before, aquatic therapy was mainly for you have a special condition that focuses on that condition, whereas this focuses on the whole person, like that.
Yeah, I was going to say anything that really focuses on the whole person that you would think would deal with any condition. Now, whether it's
And what they found when they started doing it there at Timpani Center, they did some studies, and they compared it with the aquatic therapy techniques. For example, techniques that were designed to increase range of motion, to give the arm more movement. They measured how many treatments it take, how much success it would have, and then they did it with Watsu, and they found they were able to measure much more.
and these were both done in water.
Yeah, both done in water. But the reason was because when a person is stood up in the water and having their arm rotated, all their attention is there and they're resisting. Even if they're trying to help,
Absolutely.
that's resistance. Whereas if you're floating them around the pool like this and then you're just rotating their arm in the process, they don't focus resistance there. And so they're able to increase the range of motion.
Now, and how about on land or other, techniques? I mean, has there been tests that show that when you do these same processes more or less in water, that because it's in water, I mean, it would make sense to me because of the...
There's many conditions that just being in water helps, and then also what we can do when we have the weight off the spine, we can move the spine in ways that just can't be moved on land.
It's interesting because I remember saying to you after, it seemed like on some level we did it, I guess it was probably an hour session, give or take, 5 or 10 minutes either way, that you might find yourself being tired after because, you were doing a lot of the activity and you said no.
No,
you could do 8 or 10
not.
or 12.
It's not tiring at all because it's a meditation.
Yeah.
And so after
that was what was really
meditation-
interesting to
Yeah,
me.
after meditation, you feel very good. Yeah.
So you can do like 8, 9, or that might be a lot.
Well, that would be quite a bit. You'd be
Right.
kind of a little waterlogged after
I
a while.
was going to say, they raises you out of the
You
pool.
start losing a few minerals too.
You start passing out.
Yeah.
You know, we're going to show that second video in a little while. We'll show the one with the healing, the one in Israel. Why don't you, describe?
This is a clinic I was teaching in Phoenix, and we'll hear the person down there. And I just want to say one thing. When I taught at Timpani Center, one thing that really pleased me was they started a program there of training parents to Watsu infants that have handicap problems,
Like what kind?
or adopted infants that have problems of bonding, that weren't bonded. And they sent me a video that showed this big guy, looked like a football player, with this tiny little infant doing all the Watsu moves with it. And it was so nice to see that.
And that was because it was an adopted child, or
it was an adopted child, yeah.
And so what types of disabilities seem to really respond?
Well, we're going to hear in this next video the description of some of them, and the number is growing. It's not totally
hasn't been fully explored yet. Yeah, I mean, it would seem to me that it's a beautiful experience. So I mean, it would bring the body more in harmony. So whatever's in disharmony, whether it can bring it all the way, it can heal a broken leg, maybe not. But.
It also brings the person back into their parasympathetic nervous system from the stress reduction. And all the
They're more
from that.
balanced at that point.
And the floating level with the heart has really effect on.
That was what I said to you right after. I mean, that was really a beautiful experience. So I guess whenever we're ready, why don't we see the healing video, and then we'll be back and we'll talk some about it. This was done by Harold.
My name is Lynette Jameson. I'm an occupational therapist in Phoenix at the Maryvale Samaritan Health Institute. We're currently seeing anywhere between 100 and 150 people a day. The company I work for is quite large. We're the largest healthcare provider in Arizona. I brought Harold Dahl here to our facility for Watsu training 1 and 2 for our entire staff. We trained 30 rehab employees with the Watsu 1 and 2 techniques. Since that time, our use of Watsu has gone up significantly. Currently, we're treating a variety of patients with fibromyalgia, arthritis, patients that have had a stroke, chronic pain patients, people that have back injuries. In addition to those, we even work with some psychiatric diagnoses, people that have gone through a rape, women particularly, and we find that Watsu helps bring them to terms with their current diagnosis and helps them get through some very difficult times. From a pain management perspective, we find that the Watsu can relieve pain. Initially, when we first introduced Watsu, those that have chronic pain feel relief for about 24 hours after the first Watsus. After 2 or 3 weeks of having a regular Watsu, we find that the benefits from Watsu are longer lasting. They can last as long as a week for pain management and more. For those that have range of motion problems, we use the Watsu to increase joint mobility and joint integrity. In addition to that, we're using Watsu with those that have psychiatric problems. We find that just by the nature of Watsu that we're being nurturing and caring, and there's something about just the way we hold someone during a Watsu, and we get lots of benefit from it.
My name is Tobias Tuchiner, and I'm the director of the Williams Island Aquatic Therapy Center, Israel. We give more than 2,000 aquatic therapy sessions per month. We specialize in pediatrics. I find Watsu to be a very strong therapeutic tool. The combination of vestibular stimulation, rotations, and freeing the spine are very effective in reducing muscle tone and increasing range of movement in cerebral palsy children. Other children with developmental disabilities benefit from the close, tender, caring holding, which is so important for every child.
Hi, we're back with Harold. So yeah, those videos are beautiful. So you find that spreading now, that more and more
Very much so. And the pool we just saw was a pool in Israel, which I was teaching at. I was a very nice group of people there. They're working with a lot of children now. It's the biggest. How the work has gone into different countries is very interesting. It depends on the people that first get contact with it, what field they're in. Like he had this huge center that works with children in Israel. He's also a professor at the university there in aquatic therapy, and he started loving Watsu and bringing it in and working with all the children.
How do people come in contact with it?
Well, there was another. It's so various. When I was in southern France, I was giving a lecture in Monaco at a meeting of midwives that work in water, and there was the head of the Italian childbirth, Natural Childbirth Association, a doctor. And he invited me to Italy, and I started teaching midwives there. Now we have many practitioners and students in Italy, and they're not all midwives, but it started out, it was mainly the midwives that brought it in. And they've been doing a lot of really interesting work with pregnant women, with Watsu, and also having the husbands come in and Watsu the mother while she's pregnant, and that bonding with the child that they feel by Watsuing the other.
Wow.
And also coming in and Watsuing the mothers after the birth, when other intimacy is not appropriate, but they can get that connection through that. And another very different group to bring me in was the group in Japan. Jun Kono was the head coach of the Olympic swim team of Japan when they were supposed to go to Moscow, and because of the boycott, and his students were so disappointed, or his team members were so disappointed, he quit the Olympic Association, and he started traveling around the world to look up different kinds of aquatic exercise, comparing it in Europe and America to introduce it into Japan. And in one of the places where he was watching aquatic exercise, someone was demonstrating Watsu. And so he asked for one of our teachers to come to Japan and show it, and then he came and studied with me at Harbin Hot Springs and then later in Hawaii, and now he's teaching the Watsu in Japan. And the cover of the book is one of the classes where I was teaching in Japan, which almost everybody in that picture is aquatic exercise instructors in Japan, and now they're becoming Watsuers. And they've also started bringing it into their aquatic exercise sessions as a warm down at the end of a more active session, and having people pick up each other and float them to finish their sessions.
I mean, it seems like a beautiful thing, even just in terms of teamwork, and to feel like, that we're all one team here.
Sure,
we're all working together.
Yeah.
Do you find that, I mean, in some Olympic sports and athletes, there's a situation or a problem with steroids and things like that? Did you notice that a lot there, and would Watsu deal with that, or would there be any connection?
I don't quite get it.
No, in other words, like, do a lot of these Olympic athletes take steroids, and would that affect how they would respond to Watsu?
I just don't know. I haven't come up with the
never,
experience, and I haven't. Yeah, I mean,
because there is a lot of theory that a lot of the athletes, are on steroids of one kind or another to, increase their peak performance and stuff like that. So, I mean, it's possible that when they start doing Watsu, they stop doing that because they feel the disharmony of it. Yeah. But you've never seen
No, I haven't worked with you.
And also, one of the other things that's happening is that Watsu is being offered in a lot of spas all over the world now, right? I mean, as you would offer a weight room or whatever.
Yeah, it's becoming very. We just recently taught almost the whole staff at Sonoma Mission Inn, but they built a whole new center around the Watsu pool, which they do a lot of sessions in. The first spa to bring Watsu in was 10,000 Waves in Santa Fe, and this was about 12 years ago. I think it started there. And then Two Bunch Palms, which is not far from
LA.
It's in Desert Hot Springs, and they've been doing a lot there. The work at it's very interesting. The work at Two Bunch Palms, they've been doing. They've introduced a program also where they offer Watsu to couples, and they'll take two practitioners. They'll go into a pool with a couple, and they'll float them around separately, and then they kind of bring them together, and then they also show the couple how to float each other, so that they can experience giving it as well as receiving it. which I think is very important to for
And
people's
how,
experience.
and the movement towards being able to do it in more like your own facility, and more, you know, you have a bathtub. I mean, how, is that a possibility too, or is that just too small?
Well, I've developed a adaptation of Watsu, which will work in a spa, small spa.
A spa.
Yeah,
But you haven't gotten into a bathtub yet. It's a
No,
little
not
too
into
small.
a bathtub.
It's a little
The
too
spa
small.
we're calling Watsu CQ, or Watsu close quarters, because it's kind of closer quarters.
Right.
And it's very interesting because you don't have room to float the person around,
Right.
but you have the giver has the support of sitting on a bench and can do really strong stretches and can do strong body work. And so it's a kind of a mixture between the body work you can do on land and what you can do in the water.
So, and that would just allow it to be in more places that don't
Yeah,
have
for more people to
more
have,
people that have that
and
opportunity.
we'll be training practitioners, instructors to go out and show people how to do this in their own spas.
And are there training centers all over the world, or does everybody come to your center, or is it branched
No,
out?
it's branching out. There are centers all over.
And is there a system of authorization, or you know, you have to get a pass through a class, or is there anything of before you can go out and do it?
Oh yeah, we have a whole program, and we've maybe we should look at the clip on the spas now,
Yeah,
because at the end of this,
it talks a little about
yeah,
that?
you can
Okay,
see that.
is
You
that-
can see that. Besides Watsu's value as therapy for the growing number of conditions clinics use it for around the world, more and more spas find their clientele drawn both to its power to reduce stress and its potential for personal growth. Watsu can affect every level of our being. It can help release trauma that has been stored in the body for years. It is rebonding therapy and can help heal deep wounds of separation. Being floated heart level and breath connected can help the heart recover emotions the brain is obsessing on or repressing, and let them go into the flow. In the emptiness we sink into together at the bottom of the breath is our oneness, and in the stillness that follows movement, the stillness that moves. Because more levels than can be kept track of can be accessed during a Watsu, the Watsuer is trained to just be with the person in his or her arms, to not try to do anything to them, to not try to rebirth or mother or process them, to not interrupt a session to ask what tears in someone's eyes might mean, whether they are the sorrow at not being held this way before, or joy, or both. They too are just water flowing into the emptiness. Learning to be with another this way becomes a practice, a meditation that can benefit anyone who follows us into the water and picks up someone in their arms. For this reason, besides developing trainings that prepare practitioners for whatever they might find in a professional practice, we have developed a basic Watsu that anyone can learn in a weekend and practice over and over with family and friends without exhausting its potential. Its focus is on grounding in water, connecting breath, and letting the water do everything. This can be followed by up to 3 additional and equally complete stages that each incorporate and expand what was taught before. The transition flow, the rest of Watsu 1, expands with graceful transitions the basic flow. In Watsu 2, the expanded flow integrates more detailed bodywork and stretches. In Watsu 3, the culmination of their program, students learn to share the power of their creativity and free flow. These courses, which have evolved over the last 20 years with the help of instructors and students in countless classes, are taught around the world by instructors registered with the Worldwide Aquatic Bodywork Association. This non-profit, WABA, owns and operates the school at Harbin Hot Springs, where aquatic bodywork was born, develops books and videos for this newest healing art, and posts and maintains the registry of our worldwide water family. To find practitioners, instructors, classes, and more about the forms of aquatic bodywork, visit our site, waba.edu. Our goal is a world in which everybody holds and floats each other in their arms.
Hi.
Okay.
Okay, so yeah, why don't you explain like how somebody who was interested, you know, the millions of people who are watching the show tonight who are interested,
Sure.
you know, how would they start out the process?
Well, we are training teachers to offer weekend workshops that are very basic.
I mean, how many centers would you say there are in the United States?
Well, there's not so many centers as there are teachers that are going around to different places that are right here in Southern California. There's about 3 places within this area where classes have been held. One just up from Santa Barbara, and where I gave you the session at.
Yeah, that was right in Santa Barbara,
That's
Lori Ann David's Sacred Spaces.
Yeah.
She's been a guest on the show doing drumming.
And then Serena Hausman has a pool up in Ojai, and she's been working with the Oaks and the, what's the other spa there, the Living...
Yeah, I know which one, the Ojai Valley Inn.
Ojai Valley Inn. She's been doing Watsu in those places, and she has her own pool, and there has been some classes there.
Right.
And then at the Easter Seal Pool in Ventura, one of our instructors there has been working with handicapped people and patients.
Can it be in a regular pool, or does it have
there.
to be a specially designed situation?
It doesn't have to be specially designed, but it has to be warm.
That's
the key. And the ideal temperature is body temperature of 94 to 96
So do some of these
degrees.
facilities, you know, have a regular pool and then heat it up for the Watsu training programs?
That's happened. But
That
I was
doesn't.
just at the University of North Carolina in Greensboro, and they had a huge pool, and they heated that huge pool. They brought me in a week when the school was on vacation, the university was on vacation, and they heated this huge pool up to 94 degrees, and they had the glass in there. But normally the pool was at swimming temperature and like that.
So in other words, anywhere there's a pool where they're willing to heat it to that temperature is an available Watsu pool.
As long as the depth doesn't sink people, as long as you can stand on the bottom.
Right.
And the ideal depth is one in which you can get down in the water with your legs. If you're in water that's too deep and you have to stand on your tiptoes, then you just kind of wobble around. But you need water that you can really get braced on and then sink into it and experience that emptying in the breath with it. That's important.
So and you feel like what you're doing now is to travel the world, like lighting the flames all over, bringing, you know, the experience of it to as many people as possible, wherever you're called upon to do it.
Yeah, and we formed the Worldwide Aquatic Bodywork Association. It's a non-profit, the same kind your foundation has formed, an educational non-profit.
Right.
And we maintain a registry, and the registry is, we keep the records of everybody who studied Watsu, and also a couple other forms that are related to it, Johara technique, which is a form of Watsu, and water dance, which is another form in which people are taken underwater. See, in Watsu, we don't take people underwater. We work on the surface, and the going underwater is another level. It's another challenge, a different level of challenge to have let someone else take you underwater.
Another level of trust.
Another level of trust. And so we have it as part of our program, and people are learning that as well, and it can be another step. So that's what the Worldwide Aquatic Bodywork Association includes all of this. And the registry we posted on our website, which can be accessed through WABA, which is the Worldwide Aquatic Bodywork Association .edu, because it's educational, or just watsu.com. You can get to it that way. And instructors post their classes, so people can go there and they can find out where there are classes, any place, and see what the description of the instructor and everything like that. And they can find practitioners. They can look by state or region and find practitioners through the website.
And these people have to be registered in order to be a licensed practitioner. You have to have gone through the training. You have to be registered in the program.
Right, yeah. In order to be listed there, you have to be registered and gone through the training. And the training has
there been another lineage formed where there's, there's a competing lineage in Watsu yet, or you avoided that so far?
Well, there have been other forms that have kind of come up afterwards and sort of incorporated something from Watsu and something from the water dance. The water dance itself was first developed in Switzerland by
why don't you describe that?
Arjana and Amon. And they were first developing it just as experiential to accompany workshops. To take it when they had a workshop group, they would have people learning to go into the water net. Then they started developing it. Arjana then came and studied Watsu with me, and she now is teaching Watsu, and she teaches the water dance. And we have some of our teachers in this country are teaching the water dance too, and it's developing.
And you find them to be complementary and just an expansion.
Absolutely, yeah, absolutely. It's another level. But for people, the first time they go into the pool, it's best that they first develop the trust,
before you whack them underwater.
Because it is a challenge. Right. It is a challenge when you give over your breathing to someone else. It can bring up issues and like that. And we also, speaking of bringing up issues, we really need to we train our instructors too on how to deal with whatever might come up during a session.
And how would you do that? Why don't you describe?
Well, one thing is to just know what your own limitations are, and that you're not a psychologist. You can't really fix people. You can, but you can be there and help them. And that's.
And do you mean that like even verbally, if people, or are you talking movement-wise? How would you describe that?
Well, the session is usually done in silence throughout. A person's ears are in the water as much as possible, and they can't hear if you try to talk to them. And but if they come up against something that's emotionally, something is coming up from the past for them or something, and often the most common thing that happens is they just may have some tears come to their eyes. And as they go through the session, that goes away. And what they're kind of learning in the session is that they can let those things come up. And they can let them go. So we really encourage our practitioners not to interrupt a session to try to find out what's happening inside someone else.
Unless it's really extreme.
Unless it's extreme. Unless they want to stop the session, they can't take anymore. And
right. That doesn't happen that often.
No, occasionally we have people that have a tendency towards seasickness, and we try to always determine that before we start and keep the movement down really slow, and so that we don't have any problem with that.
Oh, geez.
But
I'm sure that's happened every time.
But one of the things that people often are feeling when they have those tears in their eyes is just sadness that it's been something they've been wanting for so long. Just to be held that way. Right, just to be held that way with no intention. Just to be held that way. And they can feel that sadness, and it's good for them to access that sadness, and they can let go of it and know that they can be held that way.
Right.
So that's
very common. Beauty of it. Yeah.
So that's very common that happens that way. So, and also, of course, people, all kinds of things can happen during a session, and we just
you just hold
the space for them.
Yeah, I mean, as we talked about earlier, I mean, you're just holding it in a really safe,
and in our trainings,
place.
Too, it's very important to teach how to have a really clear separation at the end, because people can become attached if they confuse that oneness they're feeling
with you. It can be a real big separation and anxiety.
It's really important for people to just that you're there. But that's their space, their process. That's what they're.
No, I really can see that. I mean, after doing it, you just it's like, can you do this again tomorrow? Or can you do this again in about 10 minutes?
Yeah.
Because if people haven't experienced it another way, like you say, it's wow, this really feels good. I mean, it's like. I mean, there is. I'm sure I remember the first time we thought of it, the whole womb experience. I mean, the water and. Being rocked in the water. I mean,
there's been people that have experienced that very strongly, and the rebirthing, and But we don't focus on that. We don't push them in any area.
No, you're neutral.
Just
and
totally,
movement,
but they can go through any, and
they can go
through all
anywhere. They're
levels.
just safe to go
Yeah.
anywhere.
But I feel the heart connection really is the key to the work.
Yeah.
It comes back to that. And what I've read about the research that they've been doing on the heart-mind, in terms of it having its own mind and having its own rhythms, that when the person gets into their heart, the rest of the brain and the rest of their body
Starts to
harmonize with the rhythms that are in the heart. And I feel that that's what really is happening in water, that people can access their heart rhythms and feel their body harmonizing with it that way. And in that state, the heart is able to let go or to manage emotions that the brain has held on to and is totally incompetent in managing, because the brain only knows how to obsess or repress,
Right.
whereas the heart can open and let go of it, like that. So this I feel is happening a lot in the water. I think this is so, and of course, because they're on the level of the heart, that's why we don't want to interrupt with words, because that pulls them back up here. And if they have some experience from the past that they're able to let go of in that state, if someone stops and says, well, what are you experiencing? Or even at the end of the sessions, tell me, what did you experience? You know,
You're defining.
so then they have to, if they have to bring it back up into the brain, it could be counterproductive. It could be
Yeah, I think, once you let go and once everything else settles in, I mean, what you experience is your heart, love, truth, God, however.
Yeah.
And that's all the, the tools and techniques and methods throughout history are to let go.
Yeah.
When you finally let go, there's only one thing that exists. And it feels like love in a human being.
Sure.
Whether you're in water, whether you're in a mountain.
Yeah.
And, it's just beautiful that, from just watching, from doing it with you and to see that really can do that to a person. Really, you can feel that love and the way the technique and the heart and the movement and the water.
Yeah, I'm still in awe of it. It's still, how's this, that this is happening like this? It just amazes me.
Well, the whole experiment's a miracle here. So, which part of it do you pick out and say that this is even more?
Yeah.
So you see it really expanding. I mean, you're really excited. And once these new centers going to be open there.
It's on a growth. It's geometric or logarithmic, or whatever that term. Just it's growing at a very fast pace now. Many more spas are picking up on it, and clinics. It's just ever.
It seems like in a lot of, in America in particular, there seems to be a situation where. There's like a trend for a while, the Watsu trend. You support the Indians and you go to, you just go through. You don't see that happening in your experience?
No, I think it's no, I don't. I don't feel it's. I may be wrong, but it doesn't seem like it's something
you've
that
been
everybody.
involved for a long time.
It isn't something that everybody's going to drop all of a sudden. If they build a pool in their yard and they've got a warm pool, they're not going to stop wanting to go into it.
I don't know. A lot of people put treadmills.
My ideal is a world in which like every block has a warm pool on it, and then people can just meet in the warm pool and float each other. It's much better than bars as a place for gathering, community gatherings. So and that day will come when heating the pool does not cost anything in energy. When there's some point at which there's a way of heating it that's not harming the planet at all, then that can.
So at Harbin, is it mostly like solar heated there?
No, the Harbin is a hot springs.
So it's
naturally heated. The new center, though, will be solar heated because it's off on a more isolated part, secluded part on the side of the mountain, because we wanted more. And also there's a limited amount of hot water, and it's used by a lot of people. It's coming from the hot springs.
So one of the points now is to heat something to keep it that warm in most American climates would take some amount of usage of electricity.
Or solar, or
Right. So really, the thing that we'd want to do is have like you say, centralized locations where it's a common unity, a common pool.
Yeah.
And do you find that in planned communities now, which there are a lot of, that is that taking to be part of like the initial plan? Is that coming to that
We've
yet?
had some people contacting us. I don't know of any place that's already constructed with like a round of a Watsu pool. I mean, it's not. I don't know of any. But there have been some sealers, some architects, but asked questions about that, doing that. Yeah.
So was your history involved in spiritual things? I mean, for you to come into this.
Well, my background, I was a poet, and I was involved in San Francisco in 1957. I first went down there when I graduated from the University of Washington. I'd studied with Theodore Roethke and Stanley Kunitz at Washington. All the poets at that time were going to San Francisco.
And so you were there with Ferlinghetti and the City Lights bookstore and hanging around Carol Doda.
Well, I was not hanging around Carol Doda.
But Ferlinghetti. But they were all real close together, right? Wasn't that
it was always in that area. The North Beach,
North
Beach.
Right.
Yeah, this was before the hippies came to town.
I came later.
And then I traveled to Europe, and I came back, and then I went and was teaching in Mexico City, and that's when the hippies came to San Francisco, when I was in Mexico City. But the days, back in those early days, was a very exciting time. It was like the poetry scene was very vibrant, very exciting. But then as I started traveling, I was teaching English other places in Canada and Mexico, and I got kind of away from the scene and was not writing so much. And when I was 40 years old, I had never received a massage. I never had any body work. And then I got into shiatsu and Zen shiatsu and loved it. Loved the work with it.
And you got that in the United States, but you studied in
yeah. And then
Japan.
I went and studied with Shizuto Masunaga, who developed Zen shiatsu there. And then I started teaching it. But I was late coming into it.
So you didn't really come into all this stuff. Did you come in during the 60s, or you came in after that?
To
like
San
the spiritual
Francisco.
path and all that?
Well, my path before that time was the creative. The art. Art for me was my religion.
Right.
It was my practice, my meditation. Was the excitement of writing, and I love paintings. I love museums. I was very much into aesthetics and that up until that time.
When would you say you had your first like transcendental experience where?
It was around writing, and also I had different moments, really strong vision, experiences, and it was never drug induced. I never got involved in drugs.
You were like the only one.
I was the only one. Yeah, I was the
I don't know if he's telling the
bohemian.
truth, but if he's telling the truth,
No,
he's the only
true.
one. We're gonna have to do a search on this one.
Yeah, no.
No, you need to tell me you've never smoked marijuana.
I'm not going to say that.
Not on television, because there'll be a lot of people calling in. I was in a room with that man.
No, but it's not. It was
never a big thing.
It was never something I was interested in. Not.
Because we have people on the show, and people of my own experience, not myself, of course, because he's always a choir boy, but where drugs were an opening thing, like LSD, and marijuana were really.
But for me, like I say, my experience was more based around poetry. It was more around but then.
Yeah, it's amazing. Like I said, we've had 97 shows and like 200 guests, and all the different ways people came into the experience of oneness, and then all the different tools and methods that came out of their experience of that. It's really beautiful.
But the poetry life had become more of an isolated kind of lonely life. And then when I started doing the shiatsu...
And in the head a lot.
Then when I started doing the shiatsu and started doing the Watsu, then I started feeling my connection to others again.
Exactly.
That had kind of been lost.
So you had to open out. Yeah.
And that really was the...
Right. Well, I guess we've come to the end again. It's really been really beautiful. I hope you had the experience and the opening that we had here. And again, I want to thank you all for all your letters, cards, emails, all the inspiration that you give us to just keep coming back and just exploring new avenues, and all the love and all the people who share that love with us. And if you want any information about Harold, he told you the website, but you could call me at Alan 805-687-2053. You could do the Bridging Heaven and Earth website, heaventoearth.com. It'll be linked to Harold's website in the next couple of weeks. So thanks again for coming. Good night. God bless you. Remember the love. Good night.